Hey everybody, so I hope you read the new chapter of My Hero Academia Vigilantes because it seems like with chapter 105, it's quite possible that we're rounding the corner of the series. I'll go more into detail as to why I'm thinking that later in the video because it seems like a pretty cool coincidence is actually lining up. So if they did want to end the series next month or so, it's definitely quite possible. Because to me at least, it does feel like chapter 105 is the beginning of the end of the Naruhata War. Granted, I know that there's going to be some people that are like, yo, Dan, you kind of declare this to be a war arc, we would expect it to last more than 4 months. Though to counter that, this is Vigilantes we're dealing with, and this story doesn't really have an arc that lasts longer than 4 months. But with that being said, enough of the spoilery content for the intro. If you haven't read the most recent chapter, be sure to read it and then head on back, because this video is going to contain spoilers for chapter 105 of Vigilantes. And if you enjoy coming to the bar every week, be sure to click that subscribe button. And if you want to be involved in each video's premiere, be sure to hit that notification bell as well. But for now, it's way too hot out. Let's go inside and grab ourselves a cold one. Alright folks, welcome to the bar. So hopefully most of you have read the chapter by now, that way I don't really have to pull any punches when it comes to spoilers. Cause like I said in the intro, chapter 105 does really work as a vehicle to get us to the end of the series. I mean, for the first time, we actually have a one-on-one fight between the main antagonist and the main protagonist of Vigilantes. Those of us that have been vigilant and have been reading this story for the past 5 years have been waiting for this moment, and essentially, this is our Deku versus Shigaraki moment. And I won't say I'm kind of underwhelmed by this week's chapter because at the same time it did have parts where the chapter absolutely shined. And before I break down what I feel are the most important parts of the chapter, I do want to talk about whether or not it's possible Vigilantes could end next month, or pretty much within the next 3 chapters. The reason why I'm saying this is because the 5th anniversary of Vigilantes is approaching, and the coincidence is happening on August 20th, because if Vigilantes doesn't take a break and releases on August 20th, that is the exact day that My Hero Academia Vigilantes debuted 5 years ago. So if they do establish that My Hero Academia Vigilantes is a 5-year backstory, it's a pretty intense coincidence just to pass up, and it kind of marks as an opportunity for them to end the series on the 5th year of its serialization. And if it does end that way, it could be possible that the Vigilantes make their debut in the main series by the end of the summer. Mind you, that's on the assumption that Horikoshi even wants the Vigilantes in his story, because for all we know, he might view it as a cute little backstory that he has no intention of even touching. Because if you're reading My Hero Academia right now, that current plotline would have us think otherwise, that the Vigilantes are going to be making their debut. Though remember, every 3 chapters of Vigilantes equates to 6 chapters of My Hero Academia, so taking that into account, it's definitely possible that we could be in a brand new arc by the time Vigilantes ends come this August. But remember, that's my headcanon trying to put 2 and 2 together and see my favorite characters enter the series that I love so much. But enough of that. If you agree with my sentiment, be sure to leave it in the comments down below, but let's head over to the wall and discuss chapter 105. Okay, so chapter 105 really does 2 things for me particularly. It tells me that Koichi has finally gotten the upper hand against number 6, and the big one is All Might will not be showing up to this fight whatsoever. You see, the chapter actually starts off from the point of view of the number 1 hero. He's in the cafe at Might Tower, and we see that Japan is constantly under attack, keeping him rather busy even in the middle of the night. Like, they really try to depict that All Might is dealing with everything, even down to mythological threats. So with that being said, the TV really doesn't depict the situation in Naruhata to be that serious. Because for all intents and purposes, if you're All Might, you see that as something that other heroes could handle. Because if you're trying to hammer home to the number 1 hero that your situation is really grave, you give him a call. If he just sees it on TV and his might sense isn't firing off, he's immediately going to assume that, this is a job for someone like Best Jeanist or Edgeshot or like Kamui Woods or something like that. See, the irony of this situation is though, if he actually went to that debacle, he would have been closer to discovering the mystery behind All for One's disappearance. Because at this point in time in the story, he thinks that All for One is dead, because within the current Vigilantes timeline, he doesn't find out that All for One is alive and making moves for months. So with that being said, it looks like All Might won't be showing up this arc, which I am totally for. I didn't want a cheat code to show up and have Koichi not be the hero that saves the day, you know? So knowing that the number 1 ain't showing up anytime soon, let's talk about the fight between number 6 and Koichi. Because the cliffhanger for chapter 104 had us thinking that number 6 had landed a fatal blow on Koichi. And before we talk about how Koichi weaseled out of that situation, chapter 105 shows us the after effects of number 6's assault, and it provides us with a little bit of insight as to what the various quirks of number 6 are. See, originally we only thought that he had the bomber quirk compiled with overclock, but this panel tells us right here that number 6 has 3 different quirks: bombify, detonation, and regeneration. And I kinda don't understand the difference between detonation and bombify. My guess is bombify will turn anything into a bomb, while, detonation will actually help the explosion process. But that's the way that I'm rationalizing it, because now we find out that number 6 has 4 quirks, which means that if he's number 6, there's the possibility that he has 2 quirks that we haven't seen yet. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because the only other numbered bad guy had 9 different quirks. Either way, that was just something I didn't see coming. But also what I didn't see coming was how Koichi was able to deal with number 6's explosions. Because I'm going to be brutally honest right now, I thought that Koichi took a straight up direct hit from number 6 as of the last chapter. But during this chapter, we find out that Koichi's quirk is also constantly evolving. This guy's quirk started out as a simple mobility quirk, and now it's evolved to have projectiles, flight, and now finally protective barriers. So my man Koichi is essentially able to use slide and glide to render number 6's blasts useless. So useless, in fact, that when number 6 realizes that Koichi isn't down from the initial hit, he tries to do it again, only to slow down time and see that Koichi uses slide and glide to disperse the blast. And in typical Shigaraki and All for One fashion, he calls out Koichi for breaking out another cheat code. And when this happens, number 6's twisted inner conscience actually tells him that he can no longer keep up with Koichi. Koichi is on guard and now has speed on par with him. And I've seen from my comments that people have been saying, oh my god, does this make Koichi one of the fastest people in the series? And I would say, yeah, it definitely does. Injuries aside, if we were to break down the fastest people in My Hero Academia, or at least the top 5, I would say that the number 1 is Prime All Might, obviously. Number 2 is Deku right now in the current manga. Number 3, Hawks. Number 4, I would probably give to Koichi, because number 5, I would give to a tie between Ingenium and Endeavor. The reason why I don't put them before Koichi is because Koichi actually outran both of them in Vigilantes, and I didn't want to put Knuckle Duster / O'Clock on the list because we really haven't seen him stacked up against other speedster type heroes, but if I had to estimate, I'd bump Ingenium and Endeavor out of 5th place for O'Clock. But that's when we can say that this is the turning point for Koichi in the series. This fight, he did not have the upper hand until this moment, so now that number 6 is becoming frustrated, Koichi can be on the offensive while staying on the defensive. Because from here on out, the chapter takes the opportunity to give us Koichi's point of view, and we finally get the moment that we've all been waiting for since the story has started. One of the first things that All Might tells Deku is what every hero self-actualizes eventually. The moment where they realize that their body moves without their mind even thinking. This is it. This is Koichi's self-actualization moment. This is his vigilante academia, and it's time for him to become the hope of Naruhata. Because with this chapter, he's finally accepted the role of the hero, and even though he openly admits to not being much of a fighter, he knows that he can stall number 6 long enough for help to arrive, because running away is his forte. And I love this panel right here when he recalls all of the moments when he puts himself in harm's way. And I love this because this is the moment in the series where he just kind of has that self-actualization moment of he needs to do this. So my main question for chapter 106 is what happens next? Does Koichi just continue running away, or does he find a way to get an upper hand on number 6 to take him out? The fight between number 6 and Koichi has been going on now for like 2.5 chapters, so it begs to be questioned whether or not the next cliffhanger will be the defeat of number 6 or just another setback for Koichi. Because chapter 104's cliffhanger was the is Koichi dead moment, only to find out in 105 that he developed the trump card on the fly that is more or less canceling out number 6's bombing. So for all intents and purposes, all he has to do now is just out-sustain number 6. There are 3 chapters left before the 5th anniversary of Vigilantes, meaning if they did want to wrap it up and have a little bit of closure with the chapter, we would have to see the fight wrap up with number 6 within the next 2 chapters. That would mean the fight ends with chapter 107 and 108 being the happy ending. And I do think the only foreshadowing towards Knuckle Duster's reappearance is that Koichi Koichi said that he's going to continue running away from number 6. But other than a tiny bit of foreshadowing that we can easily misinterpret, the window for Knuckle Duster's reappearance is shrinking dramatically. I mean, let's be real here, every single person that reads this story wants number 6 to receive a knuckle sandwich from Knuckle Duster before the series ends. And what would be more psychologically damaging to number 6 if Knuckle Duster actually appears in front of him and is like, yo dude, I ain't in your head, man, you're absolutely crazy. And even if we do deem Chapter 105 to be kind of boring, it did its job on 2 levels. The first was All Might showing us valid reasons as to why he couldn't be on scene, and the second was Koichi's development into an actual hero. I will say that I think that this chapter did do a spectacular job at getting that across, because having him share the same feelings as All Might and Deku do make me think that this is the most heroic we have seen Koichi act. We've constantly seen flashes of Koichi's greatness, but never once has he acknowledged that he's been content with his actions. This chapter is that acknowledgement. It's him admitting to himself that he has what heroes have, and that's the willingness to meddle where he certainly does not belong. So look, if you agree with me and see that Vigilantes could possibly be ending in the next month, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. And if you think that it's possible that the series might continue after this, let me know what you think the following arc could possibly be. Because if they deal with number 6 right now, what's really left for this series to do? The main bad guy's been defeated. But look, enough of that. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to smash that like button. And I'll catch y'all later. Cheers.